Hello, guys. Welcome. We'll start in 1 or 2 minutes. We'll start in the next few seconds. So, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to our Empowering DevSecOps Security webinar. My name is Anirban, and I will be moderating today's session. At the end of the webinar, we'll have a Q&A session. So please have your questions ready, and please feel free to type the same on the chat box, and we'll take it one by one. As we embark on a journey towards understanding the vital intersections of development, security, and operations within the realm of technology, as we delve deeper into the nuances of DevSecOps, we aim to not only enlighten, but also empower each and every one of you with the knowledge and tools necessary to fortify your digital landscapes against emerging threats. In an era where technology evolves at an unprecedented pace, the importance of integrating security seamlessly into the development and operations lifecycle cannot be overstated. This webinar serves as a beacon guiding us through the intricate maze of DevSecOps principles and practices, ensuring that security is not an afterthought, but rather an integral part of every stage of the software development process. I'm honored to welcome our esteemed panelist for today, Ashish Pradhan, Chief Technology Officer, Quick Hill, and Swapnil Nayak, Senior Director of Engineering, ACL Digital. Their wealth of experience and expertise in cybersecurity will undoubtedly enrich our discussion today. So let us embark on this enlightening journey towards empowering DevSecOps security without a further ado. So to begin with, let's start with ACL Digital and Alton. So about Alton, our parent company, the Alton Group, is headquartered in France and has 50,000 globally deployed employees. We have served upwards of 6,500 clients and are still counting. We have a global presence in 30 plus countries and have grossed a turnover of $4 billion last fiscal year. Now, talking about Alton Group worldwide spread of digital and engineering talent, now, if you could see, the rest of the world is around 17,900 and Europe is around 36,200. Now, let's talk about ACL Digital. ACL Digital is a 100% wholly owned subsidiary of Alton Group. We have served the industry for over 3 decades and created a niche in almost every industry vertical out there. We have catered to Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies in digital commerce, health tech, med tech, retail tech, ed tech, life sciences, telco, and NEM domains. Our customers are industry ISVs who cater further to the provider industry. We are an ISO 9001 2015 and ISO 27001 certified, CMMI DEFS SVC Level 3 certified, compliant with TMMI foundations, and have ISTQB certified testers. Our key differentiators are as follows: domain expertise, proven track record, end-to-end solutions, innovation and adaptability, client-centric approach, and strategic partnerships. Now, I'd like to once again welcome our panelists for today. Swapnil Nayak, Senior Director, ACL Digital, and Ashish Pradhan, Chief Technology Officer, Quick Hill. Thank you so much. Over to you, Swapnil.
Thank you, Anirban, and it's a pleasure to connect with you all. I would like to thank all attendees and Ashish Pradhan for sparing your time today. We will start this webinar with a quick overview on cybersecurity services offered by ACL Digital, gain valuable insights on evolving landscape of cybersecurity from Ashish, and then spend most of the time on the SecureLine framework that is built to protect our customers' business by embedding security best practices in software development lifecycle. So as we all know, cybercrime attacks are increasing exponentially, and the damages are growing by 15% year over year, which is a staggering $8 trillion in 2023 alone. So at this scale, cybercrime would be the world's third largest economy after the US and China. So the surge in cybercrime can be attributed due to two reasons, primarily. One is the increased threat attack surface. In 2023, the proliferation of connected devices reached between 60 to 70 billion devices and has opened unprecedented gateway for cyber threats. Also, more businesses are going online at a rapid pace. Secondly, due to the emergence of organized criminal syndicates. In early 2022, due to a leak in thousands of messages on the internet that belonged to a cyber criminal gang called Conti Ransomware Group, it came to light that these groups operate like any other corporate. These groups have similar functions like HR, coders, offense team, and negotiation teams. So HR teams recruit cyber criminals, coders create botnets and malwares, subsequently sold on the dark web. These tools are then deployed to launch attacks by the offense team. And finally, the negotiators send the extortion note to the victim and then handle the communications to negotiate on the ransom amount. So organizations need to always stay one step ahead. And to help our customers, ACL Digital offers, as you see on the screen, a comprehensive set of cybersecurity services, including DevSecOps Security that we will cover today. We have been delivering penetration testing security projects for web, mobile, IoT, and cloud infrastructure, as well as risk assessment security services for over a decade now. We have delivered projects across the US, Europe, and Asia that span several industry sectors like fintech, healthcare, e-commerce, data center technologies, education technologies, logistics, so on and so forth. So our teams actively participate in security bug bounty programs to contribute to the broader cybersecurity community to gain valuable hands-on experience on a wide spectrum of platforms and systems. We have been inducted in 50 plus Hall of Fame awards from very popular brands. Just to name a few, we have awards from NASA, Oracle, Mercedes, Barclays, Government of India, etc. So this is a testimonial of our depth in cybersecurity expertise. So now I would request, before we get started with DevSecOps, I would request Ashish to share his insights on cybersecurity and how Quick Heal helps protect customers' business. Yeah, over to you, Ashish.
Thank you, Swapnil. Click, please. So everyone's getting attacked. Malicious actors are stealing your employee credentials, exploiting your digital assets, and it can take forever to recover from damages of cyber attacks. CXOs are losing their sleep over reports like this, and this is not just paranoia. Reports suggest that nearly everyone can be hacked. Often we don't even know that we are breached for months on end. Volume and complexities of attacks are constantly growing and costing organizations millions to recover from it. Click, please. So over a period of time, with advent of technology, same technology is available to the attackers, the hackers as well. And the attacks are getting more and more challenging to detect, defend, and recover from. Let's take a look at some of the dominant, prominent, type of attacks that are out there today. So let's talk about software supply chain related attacks. What's in your soup? Even when you are using very reputed software vendors to build your digital assets, to build your digital business, you may not be safe. I'm sure you all have heard about the SolarWinds attack from 2020 that was actually traced to a malicious software update that looked like coming from the vendor themselves, which resulted in an impact on about 18,000 businesses. Last year, an identity services provided company, which is very well reputed, Okta, that was breached through a support management system that they use. So these are not just one-off examples, but many such situations and activities have happened out there. Phishing, wishing, smishing, fooling people into divulging information or access to critical assets has been something that has been going on forever in the digital world. But now that has also gone to an advanced state. In recent times, AI has been something that the hackers have used quite commonly as well. There was a case where someone had used AI voice cloning application and fooled a bank manager into executing a wire transfer of about $35 million. In another case, an AI hologram was used to impersonate a chief operating officer of a prominent crypto exchange on a Zoom call, and they scammed another exchange into losing all their liquid funds. While the technology behind all of these attacks sounds quite, complex, this is something that is now available as cybercrime as a service. I mean, it's as easy as you go to a market, decide what you want, pay for it, and get the job done. Couple of minutes back, Swapnil was highlighting the structures that he used, which are quite, mimicking a normal organizational structures as well. So today you can go to dark web, you can decide what you want. You could hire a botnet, you could hire a malware creator who would create a very boutique custom malware for you. You could launch an ransomware attack or a DDoS attack and get all of this done without really knowing a head or tail of technology as well. So it is a complex environment that the security professionals have to deal with. Let's take a look at some of the strategies that one can adopt to secure your organizations and digital assets. Shift left basically talks about making sure that cybersecurity is not an afterthought, but it is baked into your overall planning and design and architecture right upfront. It is about making sure that your requirements are not just functional and non-functional, but you're also thinking about security requirements early on in the game. You're making sure that your architecture, your plans, you have conducted proper threat modeling, and your engineering teams and your vendors' engineering teams are adopting secure coding and testing practices. You may be building your software in a very secure manner, but operationalizing the same in production environment again requires additional discipline. It's not enough that you have a robust CI/CD pipeline and you have an ability to update your systems a number of times a day. But are you a DevSecOps practitioner? Are you making sure that every step of the way there are security controls and scans happening when your code is getting into the pipeline, when your images are being brought into production? So it is important to make sure that not just the build part, but operationalization part has been done with due diligence around security practices as well. Click, please. Defense in depth is a strategy that has been popular and adopted for quite some time, which really talks about making sure that you are using multiple layers of security controls in your organization and making sure that your whole IT infrastructure is protected against various types of threats and attacks. At a core, defense in depth operates on the principle of redundancy. By implementing multiple layers of security controls, even if one layer is breached, other layers can still provide protection and reduce the likelihood or impact of a successful attack. Apart from putting various controls in place, you might also want to ensure that there are threat detection and response solutions adopted by the organization as well. Any successful or successful attack or suspicious behavior can be caught early on in the game and prevent the attackers from causing further damage. One of the latest strategies that is becoming popular and vendors are coming up with very thorough solutions around is the zero trust security model. Zero trust talks about not just verification, authentication, and authorization one time during a user's interaction with the digital assets, but making sure that the systems understand that a particular user is coming in under normal circumstances, the behavior is normal, the device that the user is connecting from is hygienic, there are no there are no malwares on that device, many other factors. So the principles adopted by zero trust security model are verify explicitly and repeatedly, provide minimal least privileges to the user for an operation only, and then assume that you can be breached and constantly look out for any suspicious behavior, and elevate your ability to re-verify the intent on the and the identity. Next, please. A few years back, Gartner popularized something called cybersecurity mesh architecture, which helps organizations use or create a platform that basically provides capabilities like centralized policy management, posture assessment using multiple dimensions, deep visibility into your critical security metric, advanced analytics and investigation capabilities, which also provide dynamic context. These are tools that a security team requires to be able to stay on top of the game, monitor your environment on a constant basis, and make sure that nothing is going wrong in your environment. Protect to the best of your abilities. Click, please. So at Quick Health Securite, we have created a platform, a cloud-based platform that provides capabilities that mimic every possible aspect of the SISMA architecture. We provide solutions that cover security of your endpoints. We provide solutions that cover security of your mobile devices. We have an XDR solution that provides detection and response against MITRE TTPs. And all of this is supported by our 30-year-old security labs, which provides threat intel to our platform as well as to our customers. So these are kind of strategies that one can adopt to make sure that your security posture is elevated and you're protected from ongoing threats. Thank you, Swapnil, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Ashish, for your insights. So based on all that you have shared, Ashish, one key takeaway point would be is not proactively planning for security defense is like waiting for an attack to occur, right? It's like leaving your castle gates wide open. Yeah. So it's time for organizations to recognize this shift and bolster their defenses accordingly. And DevSecOps practices helps to proactively safeguard your digital assets, your business. So what is DevSecOps? It's a shift-left philosophy where engineering teams, basically the dev, the security engineers, the operations work together, embedding all the good security best practices into the software development lifecycle. So this approach helps to proactively identify and mitigate security vulnerabilities throughout the development process rather than waiting till the end. So working with several customers for more than 2 decades now, I've listed a few facts that I think most of us are well aware. So most customers have embraced DevOps for quick to market deliveries, but do not have security practices embedded in SDLC. DevOps without security means releasing faster with security risk that can adversely impact your business and can cause loss of customer trust. Yeah, and unfortunately, the primary motivation behind security assessments often revolves around meeting compliance requirements. Security is more like just a checkbox. So in short, customers, most of them, not all, are reactive than proactive, right? So as I was talking about DevOps, I would just like to elaborate a little more on the current practices that are followed. So as you see in the diagram on the right, a typical DevOps process in many organizations where a developer raises a PR to check in the code in the integration branch, right? From where the DevOps pipeline kicks off and generating the build, deploying to test environments, followed by testing. So if all of this goes well, then the code is posted to staging and master branches, and then CD pipelines kick off to deploy and test build in staging, followed by deployments in production. In most cases, as you see here, there are no security tools embedded into the pipeline. So that's what I wanted to just emphasize here on the current practices. So what we want to do is we want to help our customers bridge this gap and stay one step ahead from adversaries. SecureLine is a comprehensive framework designed to facilitate security assessment throughout all phases of development lifecycle. We have developed both cloud agnostic and cloud native DevSecOps pipelines. And today we will talk more about the pipeline we have built using AWS native services to strengthen the security posture of applications and the infrastructure where these applications are hosted. As you see, we have leveraged AWS native services like code pipelines, S3, code build, EC2 to deploy the security tools, IAM to restrict access, secret manager to store passwords like keys, asset keys, etc. All security tools that we have used are open source, and the framework is easily extensible to integrate more tools. As you see in the diagram, from code commit to container configuration scans, our pipeline ensures that the secure code is validated prior to deployment. These assessments would help you protect against well-known attacks like Log4j, which was a third-party vulnerability discovered in a third-party library, right? Log4j from Apache. This is quite a famous one. Even after this threat was detected, several months passed where still there were software deliveries that continued to roll out Log4j. So had DevSecOps practices been embraced, then you would not run into those situations. The subsequent tests spanning QA, staging, and production environments identify vulnerabilities in deployed applications, hosts, and cloud infrastructure deployment. Application issues like injection attacks, cross-site scripting attacks will be detected during the dynamic application scans. Also, some of these permission settings for like cloud storage services like S3 buckets are frequently the cause of data breaches caused by ransomware attacks and would have been reported by the cloud scans that are part of this pipeline. So to plan and deploy SecureLine, there are 6 phases. The first phase is planning, where you identify the business risk based on the customer's products and services, the customer's ecosystem, and also understand the incident management process that will help you design this pipeline. The infrastructure setup is basically a single CloudFormation template that is used to set up the entire infrastructure, to host the security tools, as well as create the pipeline. We have used infrastructure as code approach to completely automate the setup. The security tools are Dockerized and orchestrated by Kubernetes. The next is the pipeline setup. Once the CloudFormation template is executed, one needs to only enter very basic inputs, like which is the code you want to test. So the code repo name, the branch name, the host credentials, the web application details. So very few inputs, and then you are good to go. Followed by that, there are code assessments where basically we have SaaS tools that are integrated to verify code and Kubernetes and Docker specs. Application infrastructure assessments is the next stage. So comprehensive tests are executed for dynamic analysis of apps, Kubernetes containers, EC2 hosts, cloud infrastructure, where all these applications are hosted. And finally, the incident management. All incidents reported are managed using Defect Dojo in SecureLine, which is a third-party open source tool. But customers can also leverage their own ticketing solutions. And in order to facilitate third-party integration into different ticketing systems, we have exported all incidents reported by each of these tools to a CSV. So now let's try to understand the benefits. So in a nutshell, the benefits of SecureLine would be identifying security defects early to avoid delays in the release, better test coverage, improving quality of the software, quick assessments at low cost, easy to deploy and extend the pipeline to cater to more tools, easy to integrate with third-party solutions. So now let's take a quick look at SecureLine. So for the demo today, the application under test is WebGoat, which is a commonly used web application for security trainings. So this is the source code of WebGoat, which is in GitHub, which is being tested. This is the web application which once deployed would be tested. So in order to test the code, in order to test the application and the underlying infrastructure, all that you need to do is we need to copy the CloudFormation code base, as you see over here, to customers S3 bucket and just configure the credentials of the repo, the applications, the hosts in Secret Manager. Then go to CloudFormation here, and you can just create the stack. So you need to specify the main deploy.xml. So you specify the location of the code that is used to deploy this pipeline. And once this is executed or uploaded, then the next step basically would be is to execute the pipeline, and then you will have the entire SecureLine pipeline created. So what you see over here on the screen is once the CloudFormation template is executed, you see different steps in the code pipeline. This is where your source code is configured. The next step is secret scanner, where we use TruffleHawk to basically identify secrets information like keys, passwords. Followed by that is software composition analysis. So we use OWASP dependency checker here to check vulnerabilities in your third-party libraries. Followed by static code analysis. Here we use SonarQube. And then, since many of the applications are also hosted on Kubernetes nowadays, we can also do a Kubernetes YAML scan to just check for any vulnerabilities in the specifications. And if all of this code looks good, all the previous steps, then finally you get into the build, where you generate the build of WebGoat to basically deploy this application, WebGoat. And then the next step basically is, since the build is generated, you have the Docker images. So you scan the Docker images if there are any vulnerabilities here. Finally, if all goes well, then you deploy the application. So once the application is deployed and up and running, then you can run the dynamic scan. We use OWASP Zap here to do a dynamic scan to identify vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting, injection attacks, so on and so forth. And finally, the infrastructure in which this application is hosted, the Kubernetes infrastructure, that is scanned using kubeskip. For Dockers, we use Privy to scan the images. So once we have scanned the containers, then the containers are hosted on a virtual machine, could be EC2. So there we basically use CIS playbooks to basically do a complete assessment of security misconfigurations on the host. So once the host is validated, then we move over to cloud scan. So here we scan the entire cloud, AWS in this case, to see if there are any vulnerabilities in cloud. So once this is all done, then finally it kicks off the last step, which is basically consolidating all the results. And this is where we consolidate all the defects into an incident management tool, which is Defect Dojo in this case, as well as we export all these incidents reported by each of these tools into a CSV for third-party integration. All the information here that I showed you, the different tools that scan the code, you can see over here that the pipeline automatically has configured the repository as well as the branch. It could be the develop branch, or it could be a master branch of production, could be a staging branch, whatsoever. So it's an easy way to configure this right at the start. And for all the tools that are configured, they will automatically start looking at this repo and source version. So once the tool is, once the secure line pipeline has been executed, what you get is a very neat report in Defect Dojo, where you can see different statistics. As you see over here, after scanning the code of web code and the application, there are 53 highs, there are 8 critical defects, many mediums and lows, right? So this gives you quick statistics on the application posture. If you want to drill down, you can just go ahead and look at more details. So that report is open here. So here you see that all the issues that are reported by different tools, all the tools in the pipeline, SaaS tool, DaaS tools, cloud tools, all the issues are reported over here that you can basically scrub and fix. So the last thing is that many customers may not have Defect Dojo, or they may be using a separate third-party ticketing solution. It could be Jira, it could be ServiceNow ticketing systems, right? So in order to get that integrated into their systems, we have basically exported all the incidents, which can be then imported by the third-party solutions, right, using this CSV. So with this, I'm done with the demo part of SecureLine application, and this is being used. We were in the past using a different cloud agnostic pipelines, but now we are upgrading the pipelines of our customers to SecureLine, who are on AWS. So with that, I'm done, and we can move over to the next, to the Q&A session. Anirban?
The floor is open for questions. You have a chat option there, question answer chat option, where you can put in your questions, and we'll take it one by one. So we have the first question here from Dharmesh. Besides AWS, are there other cloud environments supported?
Yeah, thanks, Dharmesh, for the question. And thanks for attending the session as well. So at this point of time, we have two pipelines created. We have two accelerators. One is cloud agnostic, which basically can be used in Azure, but it does not leverage the Azure native services. So what we have done is basically, since we have built the pipeline for AWS, we are now building the pipeline for Azure. And by mid of May, we should have the pipeline ready. So just like how you have seen a very automated solution for AWS, we would have a similar solution by mid of May.
Perfect. So we have another question from Dharmesh. Obviously, he also appreciated, he said great demo and very interesting product. And he also asked, how easy is it to extend SecureLine to add more tools that already exist?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, yeah, thanks, Dharmesh. So what you see on the screen is the main code base, right? And if you see the way it is structured, it's very modular. So this is the code in CloudFormation template, which is basically used to set up the entire pipeline, right? And you see there are different tools integrated over here. So, and all of these tools, all of these sections are called out. So for example, if you want, say, static application security testing, so go on top over here, and you want to basically integrate a different code analysis tool, like code coverity, for example. Then you can just, kind of copy this, create another section here, and just go to this YAML and specify the configurations for code covariety. So that would basically, it's that easy to basically just extend this framework to basically add more and more tools to further strengthen the security posture of your applications. Hope that explains. Yeah, next question, Anirban.
Yeah. So we have Santosh who said, "Thank you, Swapnil, for the informative session and valuable insights. I'd greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to answer the below questions and share your thoughts." So the first question is, with so much of these tools embedded in SDLC, this would result to a huge count of security issues. How do you manage this?
Yeah, that's a great question, Santosh. And in fact, some of our projects are that we deliver is exactly to address this business problem. So as you know, large enterprises have a very heterogeneous environment. They have legacy systems, legacy applications, new hardware, cloud, hybrid clouds. So that basically results into thousands of security issues, right? And once you have ran this pipeline, you're going to see that there are thousands of issues that are reported and saved into your incident management tool. And it's quite a nightmare for CISOs to basically get into that and address those defects. So what we have done is we have a vulnerability risk assessment service that we provide, which basically understands the customer's ecosystem, the applications, the services, and most importantly, all the security controls that are deployed in a customer's environment. To drill down to the next level, what I'm trying to say is we try to understand what are the security controls employed by the customer. For example, data encryption, malware protection systems, like say what Ashish called out is secret for endpoint protection, web application firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, MFA for password protection, network segmentations, IPS devices, IDS devices. So we look at all the security controls that are actually enforced by the customer. And then we look at the defect and see that if there are so many security controls, then would some of the security controls avoid any vulnerability to be exploited by the adversary? And that's how we basically scrub the defect and reduce the priority of the defect. And that way the customer can focus only on the important ones that can be easily exploitable, where there's no good security control that can protect it. So that's how we take care of thousands of issues and minimize the count so that the customer is just focused on the most important ones. Good question.
We have another question from Santosh. So what is the time taken by SecureLine to execute a single E2E scan? What is the cost?
Okay. So as I had shown you the different phases of SecureLine, if you see broadly, there are two parts to it. One is setting up the infrastructure, and the other one is basically execution of SecureLine on your application. So we take approximately around 20 minutes or so to deploy and set up all these tools and infrastructure, and around 20 to 25 minutes to scan your applications, your hosts, your cloud infrastructure, right? So overall, it takes about 40 to 45 minutes to complete the entire scan. In terms of cost, right, we basically, if you see, we leverage code pipeline, we leverage EC2. And what we do is once a SecureLine is executed, you can just delete the SecureLine project, which basically will release all the resources. So that way you can efficiently control the cost. And to put an amount to it, based on our analysis on running multiple scans, we have seen it should take about $2 to $3 to execute one scan. As some of this are paid services by AWS. So around $2 to $3 per scan is what it comes to.
Okay, so we have another question. Can we use the Amazon inspector instead of Privy in AWS?
Yes. So as long as any tool that supports command line, that supports APIs, we should be able to use it. I haven't specifically used AWS Inspector, but that's something that I think we should be able to integrate.
Okay. We have another question from Mangesh. Again, he said, very informative demo. Does SecureLine support other security tools beside Privy? Again, similar kind of a question, but yes.
Yeah. So as I just said, we have a very structured code base. You can just introduce the new section and just plug in the third-party tool that you want to use.
We have we have a question from Amit. Also, a feedback. I love the approach of shift left with a complete 360-degree view. Also, the extensibility part is nice. It's nice to see security by design being the focus. And his question is, how much time would you take to deploy this pipeline in customer environment? That's the first question.
Yeah. So broadly, when we want to move this code base to a customer's environment, all that you need is first to copy the code base. So we just need to copy this folder, which has all the code files, into an S3 bucket. It barely will take a few minutes. And then based on the credentials that you want to access your applications, hosts, you just need to configure those credentials in your secrets manager. So I would say that a couple of hours and you are up and running.
Great. So we have another question from Amit. We may have multiple branch to test the scan. What changes needs to be done?
Okay. Yeah. So maybe I have this file here. So Amit, you have seen that there are multiple code analysis tools here. And what we wanted to do is avoid hard coding any repository names and branches and all that, and just have it in one place. So all that we have a common parameters YAML. And if you see, we have all these parameters over here that you can just quickly configure. And based on these parameters here, every tool will pick up the parameters from this document, like keys. Now coming to your branch. So we have the branch details here. So you can specify what's your repo. The repo name is webcode in this case, and the branch is main. So if you want to change the branch to say staging, if you want to do a staging deploy, then basically it will just take the staging branch and assess the code in staging. Yeah.
Yep. So again, Dharmesh here, he's asking, can you elaborate a bit more on the third-party integrations?
Okay. So one of the stages of this entire SecureLine process is basically is to have this, right? Is to have all your incidents into the final results. So when this section runs, okay, it calls some internal YAMLs, and that basically calls out parsers. So what we have done is we have built parsers for each of the tools, okay? Because every tools would have their own schema, own fields, own information, right? So what we have done is we have analyzed all these tools, the output of these tools, and we have built up a common schema. And what we do is we have basically run the parsers on the output of each of these tools, and we have for each of these tools that are listed here, and we have converted to a common schema so that it's more easy for third-party integrations. So as you see over here, when the parsers execute, they basically will consolidate all your incidents into a CSV. And if you see here, there are different tools, ZapScan. So all the incidents are over here. And that's how basically we have been doing third-party integration. right? So all, yeah, like CIS audits, all the tools. So all the incidents basically are consolidated in the CSV, and the third party tools can pick it up.
I see a question from Sheikh. Can I get this recorded session? I think Dalia has answered that in the chat. Now, the question is from Kaushik. What would be some practical strategies for integrating security measures seamlessly into development and operations in DevSecOps environment?
Yep. So what we have been doing is we have been basically integrating security pipelines uh, based on customer requirements. So there are multiple branches created by develop branch, which is basically integration branch. It could be the staging branch and the production branch, which is master. So typically what happens, the strategy that we employ is that we basically run this pipeline on the integration branch on a nightly basis. We, because in most customers, because we want the build from engineering teams to QA as soon as possible, because we don't want security to be a blocker, because that impacts schedule. So it's basically a trade-off that you want to employ on how soon you want to get this build tested. So for regular check-ins, PRs to integration branch, we do nightly scans. And then as and when PRs move to staging, we run the pipelines again. So there's separate pipelines created for develop, staging, and production. So as and when PRs are raised on staging and production, the scans run immediately. But for integration branch, we do a nightly scan.
Right. So again, a similar kind of a question, but let me repeat it. What will be the approx costing for a single scan? Asked from by Abhijit.
The single scan would cost around $2 to $3 approximately. The cost basically is of EC2 and code pipeline, and that's it. So as soon as you are done with the pipeline execution, you can just release the resources, and that way still control the costs. So that's what we've been doing, and that costs around $2 to $3 per scan.
Right. Another question from Mangesh. Can we deploy SecureLine product on a private data center?
Yes. We, as I just mentioned, we have two types of solutions. One is cloud agnostic and one is cloud native. The cloud agnostic solution is we've been leveraging Jenkins for the pipeline, and we have integrated all these tools. So for private data centers, not public cloud, we can use the legacy DevSecOps pipeline that we have built.
I mean, thank you for all the questions. Please feel free to ask any more questions if you guys have. This is really good to see that the session was really engaging. And thank you, Swapnil and Ashish, as well for answering the questions and taking up this session. But yes, we'll wait for another 5 minutes to see if there are any other questions coming up. Okay. Another question. How is your risk assessment process? How does your risk assessment process work?
Yeah. So, Vinayak, are you there? Can you hear me, Vinayak? So, yeah, I just wanted Vinayak, he's our security architect, to answer this, but not sure. Maybe he's on mute, but let me take this on. So, our risk assessment framework, basically, what we do is our source of truth basically is an incident ticketing solution that we basically use to manage all the incidents and to basically assess the risks. We just need to figure out as to what these security issues are and how they can be exploited, right? And understand all the security controls that are basically deployed in the customer's environment. So as I just mentioned previously, here we see what security controls like IDS, IPS, malware protection systems, data encryption, all these techniques, and we try to assess each defect whether they can be exploited given all these security controls are basically configured in the customer's environment. And if we think that that the vulnerability can be easily exploited, then obviously, and based on the risk that it brings into in terms of cost, in terms of downtime, we basically align the severity of the defect. And if the security controls can basically safeguard against those risks, against those incidents, then we basically reduce the risk. So that's how we go about the entire risk assessment approach. And then those issues that are very severe and can be easily exploited is something that we follow up with engineering just to make sure they are taken care of. So this is the risk assessment framework that we basically use for our customers for understanding the overall risk posture.
Hey, hi. Sorry, I'm back. Am I audible?
Yes, Vinayak.
Yeah. So to answer that question, so there are certain scenarios where it is not possible to remediate the identified security vulnerabilities within the defined service level agreement due to multiple reasons. Like one of the common reason that we have observed is budget constraint, then application incompatibility or hardware support, which opens a door for hackers to penetrate into the network and they can then exfiltrate the data. So to overcome these channels, there is a concept called compensatory controls or the technical controls, we can say, which can bring down the risk exposure rating. So the controls which Swapnil mentioned, so we have multiple controls categories into two parts, preventive controls and detective controls, which can definitely help us to bring down or to evaluate the security risk of the reported vulnerabilities. And if those risks are manageable, then those can be detected or prevented or compensatory controls by the compensatory control, then we can bring down the security risk by the defined level. So in best, the suggestion is to have a combination of both to manage the risk. And preventive controls are most cost effective in long run, and detective controls are still necessary to catch any EMS threats. And in case of there are no technical controls, that is no preventive and detective controls, then there is a process called exception process. This is been followed, and in that process we take stakeholders approval, and then that becomes the end of the process and the risk is accepted, and the further action is taken care. I hope this answers this question.
Yep, certainly, I think. We'll just wind up in the next 1 minute. We have a follow-up question, actually. So do we have tools to analyze this? That was the question. And maybe we'll wind up once this is done.
We don't have ready-made tools as of now, but that's definitely good input and something that we need to look forward. But then there are tools from third-party companies like Broadcom, McAfee, and all, which basically has risk management frameworks built into your solution to basically assess the overall risk posture of your entire organization.
Well, I think this pretty much sums up everything for today. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Swapnil, Ashish, for being there with us today and, sharing your knowledge with us. Over to you guys if you guys have to say anything, or else we'll just wind up. And thank you, everyone else.
Thank you.
Thank you.